Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. I'm your host Veth. He's Stefan Biankowski, and today we're talking about the World Cup market value update. 53 players updated, no downgrades after this World Cup, and the player that we're going to talk about in this video is Kylian Mbappé. Stefan, he's going up by quite a bit.
Yeah, he is. He's going up to 180 million euros, which now makes him once again the most valuable player in the world. Poor Erling Haaland at Manchester City briefly held that title after our most recent Premier League update. He bumped up to 170 million euros, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
prior to this World Cup, Mbappe was 160. But thanks to just a truly remarkable tournament, we felt it was only fair that we had to bump Mbappe once again back up. So he's now at 180 million euros. And yeah, Manu is once again the most valuable player in the world. And it seems quite justified.
Yeah, I mean, his World Cup stats are insane. There's really no other way of putting it. 8 goals in 7 games, 2 assists. He dragged that French team all the way to the final and then all the way to a shootout, and then also scored his penalty on top of that. So it really, France not defending the World Cup title was definitely not his fault. He was in many ways the outstanding player of the tournament. Of course, the golden ball, I guess it's called, went to Messi, but really Mbappe was for me the most outstanding player, and he was also the most outstanding player in the final, scoring 3 goals. And with the back of all of that, I think a market value increase is justified. We were really excited after the Premier League update to finally have a new most valuable player in Erling Haaland, but it just didn't last. And now Mbappe has that crown back, and I think it's very justified too in some other ways as well. You have to remember this World Cup; he used that as the big stage, right? And you just know that someone like Real Madrid is now going to come in and say, okay, well, eventually we want Mbappe as one of our players, just because that's how Real Madrid works. And you do know that it would take probably around 180 million, maybe more, to sign Mbappe, and that is another reason for us to increase his market value.
Yeah, it really feels as though the World Cup is Mbappe's stage. The comparisons to Pele were made over and over again during the World Cup and then after it as well. I think Pele himself has said that he thinks Mbappe is his natural heir to his title. And, not only because they're both similar players, they're both strikers with exceptional skill and talent, but I think also because Mbappe uses the World Cup the same way that Pele used the World Cup in his career. If you want to make that comparison to Haaland, the way we tend to look at things is that, Haaland is doing things in the Champions League or in the Bundesliga as it was at Dortmund, but now, his mark, he became the most valuable player in the world because he was doing it week in, week out in the Premier League, which is obviously the biggest, toughest league in the world. Mbappe's goals in Ligue 1 don't really hold as much weight. And, there's still that kind of Champions League trophy kind of hanging over his reputation as a player because PSG haven't yet managed to make that step. But Mbappe still has that kind of outlet, which is the France national team, which is the World Cup. And, he's now looking at a point where he's only, 24 years old, 25 maybe. And he's
24.
already 24, and he's already one of the highest scoring players in World Cup history. And if things continue to go as they are for him on an international stage, then he'll almost certainly finish his career as the World Cup all-time goal scorer. So it's a really interesting duel we have between the two players, where one of them's doing it in the Premier League for Manchester City. One of them's, of course, doing very well at PSG. There's no, and could very easily win the Champions League with PSG, but by and large, his reputation has been made from this World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, having won the World Cup as a 20-year-old 4 years ago, he just turned. Oh yeah, he was 19 at the time. It's unbelievable because he just turned 24 on December 20th. So happy birthday, Killian. This is your birthday present, another market value increase. Yeah, it's just a remarkable story, and he will be 27 when the next World Cup comes around. So he has another 2 World Cups to increase his goal tally if he stays healthy. And we'll see this player probably for a very long time dominating the headlines, whether it's at PSG or another club. And for France, I think his disappointment of having lost the World Cup, you do get the sense that he's probably going to win another one at least.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, it's going to be really interesting to see, how his career plays out, not only for the French national team, where you would assume they will continue challenging for titles and came so close to almost, retaining that World Cup, which is something that's almost unheard of in the history of the sport. But, as you mentioned earlier on, where is the next kind of stage? Where's the next chapter for Mbappe at career level? The kind of back and forth of Real Madrid has gone on and on. Quite dramatically, he agreed to sign a new contract. But as soon as this World Cup came to an end, there were reports that he was going to announce that he'd done his time at PSG, and he was still going to try and push that move to Real Madrid. And perhaps you can understand that from a point of view of him saying, well, I get so much attention and I get so much praise for what I do for France, and it doesn't feel like it's kind of replicated at club level because PSG haven't been able to win that Champions League. And perhaps because he's now been outshined by other players at the club, most notably Lionel Messi, who also received a small upgrade from our market value update for winning the World Cup. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how his career plans out. But for now, he's the market value champion. He's the most viable player in the world. And I think we can agree it's probably well deserved.
Yeah, very well deserved. The Transfermarkt rumor mill has him linked to Manchester United, Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, and of course Real Madrid. And I think of all those names, only really Real Madrid is realistic. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. Transfermarkt, we will have lots more content coming out on our market value updates. This is going to be a regular thing, so please subscribe. And yeah, check out our homepage. Check out the market value update. It's now up. You can find all the new values on transfermarkt.us, transfermarkt.co.uk, and transfermarkt.com. Until next time, bye-bye.